First, I do want to make, I know the governor commented today on AB 32, perhaps not directly but indirectly, with respect to the political circus that is going on currently at the California Air Resources Board. And I want to make a couple of comments about that, and then I'll make some comments about the budget as well. First and foremost, let me just tell you, when we passed Assembly Bill 32 in California, we wrote very clear legislative language that delineates what AB 32 is. And in a nutshell, I can tell you that AB 32 has a mandate on reductions of greenhouse gas emissions. It does not have a substitute that instead of reducing your carbon footprint, in lieu of that, you're going to be able to buy carbon credits. It says that the ARB can study the issue and make recommendations to that effect at some point, but it is very clear, the law today, that on the emission side of AB 32, mandatory reductions are the driving force of this legislation, which I authored. And so I am very troubled by what is happening with the current or latest resignation of Ms. Witherspoon, and certainly of the executive director of the Air Resources Board. And, I don't know whether or not he resigned or whether he was pushed out of his job. But I will say this, given that the implementation of this landmark legislation is critical to California's place in the world with respect to our plan to cut greenhouse gas emissions, I have called for a hearing this Friday from the pertinent environmental committee in the Assembly, the committee that Ms. Hancock chairs, to have an informational hearing, to call Ms. Witherspoon to the hearing, to call the former executive director of CARB to the hearing, to have me at the hearing as well as a representative from the administration, to speak directly, openly and honestly about what exactly is going on with the implementation of AB 32. We have some very serious concerns with respect to that. I do want to also mention that while we don't want to have a major public disagreement with the governor on such an important issue, we know that the eyes of the nation and the eyes of the world are looking down on California to see how this commitment to combating climate change in California is working. People are thinking about whether to adopt this in their own state or in their own nation. So we have to be very careful about that. And I'm not going to be overly critical of the administration, only to say that those early actions that were taken by the Air Resources Board left a lot to be desired for. And that my hope is that we get focused on doing this right. We need to do it not only because it's the right thing to do, not only because it's the legal thing to do, but also because we have a huge responsibility on our shoulders to lead the way for the rest of the nation on this important matter. The other issue I wanted to touch upon was the budget. Today's the 2nd of July. We're into a new fiscal year, and yet we have not produced a budget for the people of California. My own position on this is that the Democrats in both the Assembly and in the Senate have already reconciled our differences on the budget. We have a reserve of $2 billion, which is consistent to the reserve that the governor proposed in his May revision. And I don't know, as of this point, what the holdup to the budget is, other than to say that my Republican colleagues have decided that they want us to balance next year's budget this year. And our Constitution basically calls for one-year budgeting. There are other states that have multi-year budgeting. California is not one of them. Our commitment is to balance the 2007-2008 budget as required by the Constitution of California. Unfortunately, my friends on the Republican side of the aisle believe that we need to deal with a structural problem that is going to be inherent, in their opinion, in the 2008-2009 budget year. I believe that we owe it to the people of California to do the budget as soon as possible. My hope is that my friends on the Republican side of the aisle can clearly articulate why it is necessary to hold up the budget of the 8th largest economy in the world and make a good case for themselves.